So somehow it has already been over 2 months since we had the trademark released for Ohsama Sentai King-Ohger, the upcoming 47th Super Sentai series, which will be premiering in early 2023 following the conclusion of Obitaro Sentai Donbrothers. Now it's December, and that means we have a whole bunch of toy information to talk about, we have a silhouette to look at, and we're only a couple weeks away from actually getting to see what all this stuff is going to look like. So today I'm going to go over everything that we know so far for the upcoming 2023 Super Sentai series, Ohsama Sentai King-Ohger. So of course, as we get started here today, I have to give a huge thanks to my good buddy Matt Hunt, Dukemon on RangerBoard, who as always, every single year, has been able to compile the most accurate information that he can in a very nice, easy way to read it. There's going to be a link in the description below to the RangerBoard thread where all this stuff is being compiled and posted and everything like that. I'm pretty much just going to kind of read right off of it here and give my thoughts and everything, because I guess the toy listing or the toy meeting has occurred for King-Ohger at this point. Now there's been a lot of rumors about this series over the last couple of months. I've covered absolutely none of it, so the kind of theories and the rumors that were kind of the most withstanding ones was that we were going to be getting an insect-themed Sentai. Now that is pretty funny because we get that insect-themed Sentai rumor like every single year. It's definitely been something that I've seen quite frequently. It's almost like this comparison of like a T-Rex Kamen Rider series or something, or a dinosaur Kamen Rider series. It was always like Kamen Rider does insects and Sentai does dinosaurs, and we never really mixed the two between the franchises. And then Revice has a T-Rex for Kamen Rider, and now we're getting insects for Super Sentai. We're doing this. So Sentai has been very interesting over the last couple of years because we have not had a quote-unquote like typical Super Sentai season since Kira Major back in 2020 in terms of like suits that look like a pretty typical Sentai / Power Ranger season, mecha that are pretty like normal mecha and stuff like that. Zenkaiger and Donbrothers have changed the game. And now Super Sentai can really kind of be anything, which is really interesting. And I think for Zenkaiger, it worked really great. Donbrothers has been legitimately one of the best tokusatsu series that I have ever seen. I want to talk about it for like a very long time. That will be an early 2023 thing. Today, we focus on what comes after Donbrothers, which I cannot believe the show is already almost over. We are about to head into the 40s of episodes, so we are about to head into an endgame here. But it's also that exciting period of time where we get to learn about a brand new Sentai. So I'm going to go ahead and start actually with the silhouette, because this is the only actual official thing that's been released for this show, because of course at this point in time, they haven't even technically confirmed the name, although you know how this works. We get a trademark in like September, October, that's always correct, and then we get silhouettes and Telebikun issues, and then we get the full official reveal around Christmas, New Year's, stuff like that, is when Toei and Bandai will actually drop all the official pieces of information. But in the most recent issue of Telebikun, we did get to see the silhouette for our upcoming team, and as we can see, it looks like we're going to be getting a third year of not necessarily traditional Sentai suits. It definitely looks like we're going back to a little bit more closer to what a typical Sentai from the first like 44 seasons was, because we don't really see like we have super bulky robot suits like Zenkaiger. We definitely don't have anything as crazy as Kiji Brother and Yunu Brother from Donbrothers, which I think was definitely a very interesting experiment, but I'm also happy we're probably not doing that again because it didn't always look the greatest. So, you know, it was interesting that we tried it, that they tried it over there at Toei and Plex, and I have to give them, you know, thumbs up where they tried. But as we can see here, we have what looks to be a little bit more armored looking Rangers here. It's obviously a little hard to tell because it's all silhouetted out, of course, but they all look like they have some sort of like arm cape mantle sort of looking thing here, which is kind of listed in these rumors and everything. I'm not going to be talking about all of the rumors that have happened over the last couple of months, because we'd be here forever for that. And besides, at this point, now that we actually have official toy leak information out there, I might as well just cover the latest stuff that is, for the most part, going to be the most accurate stuff until we actually get to see pictures of everything. So now let's dive into the confirmed toy catalog information for King-Ohger. Starting with, of course, the Rangers themselves. The core team is made up of a red stag, blue dragonfly, yellow mantis, purple butterfly, and black bee. Butterfly's motif is specifically called papillon, French for butterfly, while the rest are referred to in Japanese. Base color of each ranger suit is metallic, with the material looking rider-like, and then there are armor pieces on top of that which resembles the suits from the Hollywood's Power Rangers movie in the same metallic colors. So as it kind of sounds like here, well, first of all, it confirms the insect theme here. It confirms our color scheme, which I'm going to talk about in a second because I really like it. But also, it talks about how this is kind of going to look like a Kamen Rider suit mixed with like the 2017 Power Rangers movie. So I'm getting like, I'm thinking of like Kamen Rider Kabuto mixed with the 2017 Power Rangers movie or something like that, which is interesting for sure. That would also kind of give you the same sort of metallic kind of looks that this describes here. Now looking at the animals here, red stag, blue dragonfly, yellow mantis, purple butterfly, and black bee. I think these are all pretty cool. It's a very similar color scheme to what we just had with Donbrothers, which is the same kind of color scheme that we've had for like Bokenger, and there's definitely other seasons that have used it that I can't think of. Mega Ranger is one of them that use that kind of similar color scheme. However, instead of pink, we got purple. We got purple on the main team here. A purple butterfly ranger who is supposed to be male. The other one here designated as female is the yellow mantis, which I am so excited to see a purple butterfly ranger. It just sounds awesome. And we haven't had a main... Well, technically, we've never had a purple on the main core team. You could argue that like Geki Violet is part of the main Geki Ranger team because he kind of is. He's also sort of an extra ranger. He's not a sixth or anything like that. Geki Ranger is one of those weird ones. But, in terms of like what the show would start out with, in terms of like 5 rangers, this is the first time we've ever had purple on the team, which is awesome. I love purple rangers a ton. I've really been happy that we've gotten 2 really cool looking ones the last 2 years with Stay Caesar and Don Murasame. And to get a purple one right off the bat here, yep, I'm down. I'm in. That is sweet. From other sources, we know that a Spider Ranger is also coming, and thanks to these toy leaks, we know that there is a Silver Stag as well. So I definitely do remember the rumors for the Spider Ranger. That kind of seems to be filling very early on our role of a Stay Caesar or a Don Murasame-like character, and because of that, the rumors originally had that as purple, because there was rumors that had pink on the core team, just like a Donbrothers or a Bokenger kind of color scheme. So I don't know if we're supposed to get like another purple ranger, maybe the spider is pink or something like that. Still sounds really cool though. So technically we are already starting with 6 rangers, and it looks like we're getting this Silver Stag as well, which I don't remember that ever being rumored at any point. But that makes you think, of course, of Stagbuster from Beatbusters. That's not the name of the show. From Go Busters. Makes you think of something like that maybe, when I love that suit a ton. So I think that would be a really cool thing to look at here. So technically with these listings here, we have 7 rangers off the bat. Now what's really interesting here as well is that usually around this time, and we're probably going to get it pretty soon, probably like right after this video comes out, but I'm probably not going to do a follow-up video for this. I'm probably just going to wait until we actually get the actual pictures of the stuff around Christmas. But usually we'd actually have like a listing of like, this is the figure, it costs this much, it comes out then, the changer is called this, that kind of stuff. And even at this point in time, we would get it around this time. Last year was interesting because we had all those listings for Donbrothers showing how it was connected to Zenkaiger and all this kind of stuff, and we had some of the stuff dropping in late December with like the Enya Ride-On and everything like that. We don't really have that this time. We pretty much know what toys we're going to get with this first quarter of King-Ohger stuff, but we don't really have like names for everything or price points or anything like that. But we'll know it in a couple of weeks anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But basically, speaking strictly with toys at this point, vinyls this year will include the entire team and more, but the size of the vinyls has decreased to match Ultramans and more recently, Riders. For vinyls, we have red, blue, yellow, purple, black, Silver Stag, and the main trio of villains detailed below, which we'll get to. Now that is very interesting. So I actually did a video kind of about that sometime last month where I talked about Kamen Rider Geats' vinyl figure line being scaled down for the first time in Rider in a very long time to now be the same size as the Ultra Hero series that have been a mainstay of Ultraman toys since 2013's Ultraman Ginga. And I kind of talked about in that video even as well how the Sentai vinyls were doing less and less over the last couple of years than what they usually got. It was usually a very typical mainstay for a toy line to do the entire team of Sentai in vinyl form, but then we started not getting things like we didn't get one for Kirame Silver and Kira Major. Then we didn't get the entire team at all in Zenkaiger or Donbrothers, only the Reds or the leaders, the sixths, and the power-ups for those members. So I really like that we're going back to the full team here. I think that the smaller scale is better. It's now going to be kind of cool because your Ultramans, your Kamen Riders, and your Sentais are all going to be in the same scale with vinyls now, which is kind of neat. In the case of Geats', it did make their price a little bit cheaper on them, Still not, I mean, they're still not like the most sophisticated figures or anything like that, which apparently we are getting action figures. That's the next line here. But really cool that we actually are going back to doing vinyls kind of how we used to, even though they scaled them down. I think that that works out in the end for everybody. It's not going to match anything else. Maybe they'll do like a Legend Sentai vinyl set of Reds or something, because that's what they've been doing for the Kamen Riders. Now that they've changed the scale, they've been re-releasing older main riders in the new scale, so it's one of those things to where, like, it's a budget thing, I'm sure, for them to make them smaller, and it also works out for them financially to where they can sell you all these characters again in the brand new scale. It works. It's a Bandai really good way of making money, and I get it. There will also be an action figure series, but the branding may have changed from Change Heroes. Included in this so far are Red, packaged with his Stag-type motorcycle, and then Blue, Yellow, Purple, and Black. Of course this was going to happen. So, of course, Sentai was never going to keep the Change Heroes line going for too long. This was the action figure line introduced during Zenkaiger, and then continued with Donbrothers. It would have been really nice to see this kind of moniker of figures continue. And it's definitely possible that these are probably maybe the same scale as Change Heroes, but will no longer be called Change Heroes, which that would make sense, because there's not going to be anything about them that will change. You know, with like the Donbrothers ones, you had the alters that were kind of the change aspect with this, and we're not going to have anything like that this year necessarily. So they could still totally be the same size. Who knows? If that's the case and they're the same kind of like figure and they're the same size, that would be great. But at the same time, I could easily see them like making them some other weird scale or something like that, which, because Bandai loves to do that kind of stuff. Now, the Yudo candy toy figures are most likely going to continue again, because those have been a mainstay for Sentai ever since Q-Ranger, so I don't really see that going anywhere. And those would still scale with your previously released Change Hero figures. So even if the main Change Hero figure line itself kind of gets dissolved, we're still going to probably have a pretty good way of getting figures. Sentai has been doing better with that in recent years, especially even expanding over to premium stuff and everything. So honestly, I'm not too worried about how we're going to get figures this year. I think it's going to work out. Now moving on to the villains. For the first time in a while, there will be villains of the enemies. Enemy A looks like Ultraman Belial, Enemy B looks like an alien from the Ultraman movie, and Enemy C looks like Miramon. So, that's cool. We're going to get vinyls of some of the villains, which is pretty nice and probably a cool way of also, or another reasoning or circumstance of them scaling them down. They can probably now do a lot more of them. Now let's take a look at what these guys are supposed to look like. So we're supposed to get a trio of Ultraman Belial, an alien from the Ultraman movie. I have no idea who that could be. I don't know if they're talking about the Shin Ultraman movie. There's a lot of Ultraman movies out there, so I don't know what one it could be. And then Miramon, I don't know, but I am going to type into Google what Miramon is. So let's see, Miramon. Well, that just gave me a picture of a dude, so that didn't really help. Miramon Japanese. Or Ultraman, probably. It's probably all Ultraman. I got nothing. And now it's Robo time. So for the first Robo, the first robot is formed from 10 different bug mecha. This includes the 5 Rangers personal mecha, Stag, Dragonfly, Mantis, Butterfly B, and then 5 others, Spider 1, Spider 2, Ladybug 1, Ladybug 2, and Ant. The mecha resemble Unit Reborn in some way. The robot will stand at 11 inches tall and be more articulated than Don... Whoa, I didn't even read that until now. More articulated than Don Onitajin? Wow, okay. I guess they're gonna go hard again. And also, unlike Don Onitajin, it will appear in early first quarter and second quarter. So basically, unlike Don Onitajin, which took like 10 episodes to premiere into Donbrothers, because they kind of had the alters and also, I guess technically, what was that even called? What was that called? Don Zenkaio. So they even had that as pretending to be the mecha for the show for like 10 episodes, but it looks like we're not really going to be doing that again here. We're just going to get another mecha. Now this makes perfect sense that they're going to try to outdo themselves with Don Onitajin, who I'm trying to kind of point to in the background there, because that mecha sold like really, really well. I know it was like a best-selling toy. I think it even won like toy awards in Japan. It was a really big hit with kids, seemingly. It was definitely a very big hit with collectors, so it definitely does not surprise me that they're going to kind of try to go into that kind of direction with the King-Ohger mecha. But that's a lot of mecha though. 10 mecha right off the bat. Not buying that. Can't do it. Cannot do it. But now, of course, we have to talk about some Donbrothers Connections. So while this show is not going to be a sequel to Donbrothers or anything like that, it's definitely not going to be as connected. We're not continuing like plot threads here. Also, if you haven't been able to tell so far, no Gears this year. We're done with that finally. After Zenkaiger did Gears and Donbrothers did Gears, we're not doing that. So there are going to be some potential connections to Donbrothers, or I guess just Legend Sentai in general, because while we're not doing Gears again, those did sell, seemingly, because I know like Donbrothers' Sentai toy like sales actually went up a little bit, but Sentai's toy sales have always been declining over the last couple of years, so for them to go up in any capacity is a sign that something's going well. But for Donbrothers Connections, the first purchase bonus item for King-Ohger will be a Don Onitajin head that can be attached over the head of the first Robo. The first Robo will also appear first in Donbrothers. This head change gimmick and possibly the rest of the mecha line is similar to the Microman toy line. So the Microman thing means nothing to me, but that's probably something. So maybe a picture of Micromans will be up there or something like that. I've definitely probably heard that term before. But what is interesting here is that kind of like how Rider does it, to where sometimes the new gimmick item gets the older show as a first release bonus. Think of like the Revice Raise Buckle, which was sold when you first bought a Geats driver or a Desire driver at the beginning of Geats. Definitely sounds something like that. So it looks like the gimmicks are going to be maybe like heads or something that you can swap for the mecha, and that you're going to get a Don Onitajin one. Now it does say here that this Robo is going to appear in Donbrothers, so we could get a very similar situation to a Don Zenkaio thing, just like we did in Zenkaiger itself, when Don Momotaro had that brief one-episode cameo where he actually combined into the mecha and then just kind of drove away. It's probably going to be something like that. Even because like that was kind of hyped up to be a bigger connection. I know there was a lot of rumors and stuff a year ago that Don Momotaro was going to join the cast of the show for the last like 5 episodes of Zenkaiger before getting his own show. That didn't happen, but I would not be surprised if we get something very similar to what we got last year. It's just this time they're tempering our expectations right out the get-go, so we don't expect too much with this. It's also not going to be a huge connection there. As far as we know, no Donbrothers characters are continuing on. Kaito isn't going to be in a 3rd season of Sentai or anything like that, as far as we know, which is fine. I think that it was a really cool thing to do for 2 years in a row, but I never would have expected them to keep going with this whole thing. Though it would have been kind of interesting to see, I guess, but we're not doing it. As for Auxilary Mecha / bigger combos, there will be a fleet of Armament Bug Mecha. To start, we have a Rhino Beetle, gold, black, and green, that turns into a giant cannon, a Scorpion, gold, black, and light blue, that turns into a giant claw, and a Grasshopper, gold, black, and pink, that turns into chest armor. These 3 combined with the core 10 at once form a 13-piece Gesalt that is the ultimate golden combination. After that, we have a Snail, orange, that turns into a Gatling gun, and a Pillbug, black, that turns into a Gundam hammer, i.e. a chain array. So, kind of typical auxiliary items. This kind of sounds sort of like Bokenju's items or Shinkenju's items or whatever it may be. Kind of Bokenju's with that ultimate kind of combination sort of aspect to it. It's also kind of like Gal Ranger, where you have like a smaller ones, like the Snail makes me think of like the Armadillo or something like that from Gal Ranger. So lots and lots of mecha for you mecha collectors out there, because we didn't really get a ton of mecha in Zenkaiger or Donbrothers. The ones that we did were just kind of big ones, big expensive ones with electronics or with a lot of articulation or something. And this kind of seems to be going a little bit more back to what we were kind of getting for a long period of time, which I think is perfectly fine. It's just a lot. It's just going to be a lot. We don't have prices for any of this stuff yet, so who knows how expensive some of these things are going to be, but I'm sure going to be pricey. Of course, we cannot finish it out without talking about the roleplay items. The Henshin device is a sword, perhaps an Oken. Like the Seiken and Kamen Rider Saber, the sword blade glows. It has a brown pattern on it and can switch between the 5 rangers for you to transform into them, and there are 3 types of finishing moves. There is a shield weapon shared by the team. It is gold. It can transform into a different weapon for each ranger. Red has a sword, blue has a gun, yellow has a sickle, purple has a bow, black has a claw, and the Henshin sword and shield can combine into a Naginata weapon. The belt buckle is a cell phone, and the sword, which is, I guess, a question mark here if it actually can be mounted onto the belt. So what this kind of sounds like to me is a lot of stuff that we've had before in many different shows. So it looks like the saber, or the actual transformation device, is going to be a sword, similar to the Seiken from Kamen Rider Saber. This right here already screams Memorial Edition item right out the gates, because, well, first of all, we've got Memorial Edition items the last 3 years in a row for the main changers. And I know the Dawn Blaster one hasn't been officially announced yet, but it is on that leak list, to where every single thing else on that list has come true, so I'm sure it's going to happen. Honestly, first of all, I should probably say it now, even if I love this stuff, the design of it, I cannot collect King-Ohger stuff to a great degree next year, and don't expect videos on them on the channel that much. I'm sure I'm going to get some of this stuff, but first of all, every time I do Sentai video reviews, the longer the year goes on, the views just drop for the toy reviews. People just do not care. People really care, and the videos do really well before the show premieres, and then when the show premieres, everybody's done with it. So that's kind of how that goes. And also, you know, it's going to be like a small little dinky sword, and so it just screams that we're going to get a Memorial Edition at the end of the show. That's still going to be like a year from now, and I still want to see how this is going to look. But yeah, that's just kind of what the first thing that pops in my head. And financially, next year's going to be a big year with the Power Rangers 30th anniversary and all the stuff that Hasbro has planned for that. And also, I'm graduating college next year, so I'm going to have to start paying off student debt loans and all that kind of stuff. And I want to move out of my parents' house at some point in time. So I'm not going to be collecting Sentai that much next year. I was going to say it at some point on the channel, and this works, so it sounds cool. And like I said, I'm sure I'm going to get some of the stuff. Cheaper vinyls or figures or whatever is definitely an enticing thing to me, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, as for this shield weapon, the way that this is described makes me think a lot of Q the Weapon from Q Ranger, something that I really, really like. I love that design of that toy and how they were able to very arbitrarily get 9 weapons out of it for the whole team. This sounds pretty cool, and I'm excited to see how they do with this. And then that buckle kind of sounds like the Toku buckle, that kind of like design for it, that kind of rectangle. When I think of like a cell phone thing, that's kind of what I think with that. But it sounds cool nonetheless. And I think finally with all of that, lots and lots of talking there, that does it for everything that we know so far for the toys and designs and suits and colors and all that kind of stuff for Ohsama Sentai King-Ohger. So like I said, we're only a couple weeks away from actually getting to see all of this stuff. Usually pictures for the first batch of toys and the suits and everything drop either like right on Christmas or like right before Christmas or right around that time frame. So that's only about 3 or so weeks from now that we actually will get to see all this stuff. And of course I'm going to be doing videos about that leading up to it. And also, I'm sad that Donbrothers is going to be ending, but I'm sure it's going to have a fantastic final arc here. I can't wait to see how it wraps up. And I also cannot wait to read your guys' comments down below on everything I talked about today for Ohsama Sentai King-Ohger. Also, once again, huge thanks to Matt Hunt for always compiling all this stuff together. You are amazing, and thank you for writing all this up into one big area for us to read it. I'm sure a lot of stuff is going to keep coming out as more leaks get more clear and defined and everything over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned on his Twitter and on RangerBoard and everything like that, which the thread will be linked in the description below, for all the information on the newest Super Sentai series. And that's going to do it. So until next time, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the new Super Sentai series. What are you excited about? What do you want to see in this show? What stuff do you plan on getting? Is this kind of what you were expecting? Did you ever think we would actually get a bug-themed Sentai? And all that kind of stuff down in the comments below. It's only a couple weeks left for us to speculate until we get everything confirmed. So until then, you guys can follow me on Twitter at LiveRangerKey or LightningFigPR, and I'll see you all next time.